Welcome. My name is Pradeep Nambiar. I'm the product architect and developer of the Patriot PS Personal Server solution. In this short video, I will show you how easy it is to configure your personal server as a mail server. Email has become such a critical part of our daily lives. Work email provided by employees are more secure and manage data better. But when it comes to personal email, we tend to rely on free email services such as Gmail, Yahoo Mail, or Hotmail. Well, nothing is free. We all know that. We continue to use these free email services because until now it is difficult to set up a mail server and manage it yourself. Patriot PS Personal Server makes this real easy. With just $1 a month cost of owning your own domain name on the internet, you can run a mail server for yourself and your family members, all in the privacy of your own home. There is no need to rely on such free third-party servers or services where we all know that your email communication gets scanned and profiled and even given to third-party companies without your knowledge. Here are the things that you will need before configuring the Patriot PS as a mail server. The first thing, of course, you should have set up the Patriot Personal Server and has done the initial configuration. Next, you would need a registered domain name. In this example, we will use iserve4.me as an example domain that I will use to show you during our screen walkthrough. Next, you would need a mail MX record created for your domain name. Now this can be easily done once you register the domain name and host the domain name on one of the domain name service providers. Personally, I like dnsexit.com. They let you host your domain name for free once you register the domain name with them. What this gives you the ability to create any number of hosts for your domain name and also create a mail record, which we call as an MX record. The MX record is a special host that is used when resolving mail for your domain. The MX record needs to point to a host that points to your personal server. So in typical situation, when hosting a mail server from home, we want to point the MX record to a host which points to the external IP address of your ISP connection. So in most cases, the home internet connection has a dynamic IP address. So you need to set up a dynamic update of the host name that you're using for your internet connection. And that can be easily done at dnsexit.com. They offer the free dynamic update service, and also you can create any number of host names. So that's one of the reasons I personally like dnsexit.com. But you're not restricted to dnsexit.com. There are a number of other domain name service providers out there which allows you to register the domain and also provide services to create the MX record. The MX record, which is the host name that points to your ISP's external IP address, can be updated if the IP address changes using features available on the Patriot PS Personal Server or from your router. So MX record takes care to route your incoming emails to your Patriot PS Personal Server. So now let's talk about how the mail is sent out from your mail server. To configure outgoing email, you will need an SMTP server. Now you can use your Patriot PS Personal Server as an SMTP server also. But all modern mail recipient servers do not accept mails that are generated from a server that uses a dynamic IP address. So to avoid this, for sending outgoing emails, we use your ISP's SMTP server and the port number. Now typically your ISPs will not need an authentication for this as long as they determine the request is originating from their internet connection. Even if they do, we can use the required authentication. And there is some privacy concern here. Now that is true. So however, if you do want to avoid this, you can easily request a static IP address for your internet connection. So for now, we will use the ISP's SMTP server and the port number to configure our outgoing email. So let's summarize, what are the high-level steps that you should do during this mail server configuration. So number one, first you do the initial configuration of your Patriot PS. Now there are a couple of videos and screen captures that walk you through what initial configuration is required. And after the initial configuration is done, ensure that you have a domain name and an MX record has been created to point to a host that points to your external IP address of your ISP connection. Okay, so we will go to the PPS Configuration Application next and start the mail configuration. There are a few screens that you have to walk through, and they are really quick and easy once you have the above informations you have. And then on a successful configuration, you would have to update the Patriot PS profile with some additional port forwarding information. And then you would also need to update your router to port forward a few additional ports that is required for your mail server. Then once that is set up, you just have to update your mail client application, your favorite mail client, whichever one you're using, whether it is the Outlook or the free Thunderbird mail client, or your iOS mail client if you want to access your mail from your mobile device, or your Android mail client. And once you set that up to connect to your Patriot PS personal server, you're all set to start retrieving and downloading and sending emails from using your Patriot PS personal server. We will also I will show you how to create some additional mailboxes using a Postfix admin application that is already packaged along with your Patriot PS distribution. Okay, so let's get started, and I will walk through the various steps. And as you see on the screen, once you have this background information available with you, the input and the various steps that you will see on the screens are pretty self-explanatory, and you should be able to get your mail server up and running pretty quickly. Now here is a screenshot of the example domain that I'm using in this example, which is iserve4.me, and this is hosted on the DNS exit. So if you go to the control panel, you would see the dynamic DNS is on for this host name, and it has been set up to point to my ISP connection. What this means is that any host that I create using this will automatically point to my IP connection. If my IP connection changes, I have your Patriot PS personal server can be set up to update those hosts to be able to always point to your external IP address of your ISP connection. And then once you set up the port forwarding, and your applications on your Patriot personal server can always be contacted from the outside internet. So I have created an MX record, okay, and that MX record points to my domain, which actually points to my ISP internet connection. So that is all the configuration that you would need to do on your domain for your domain name, and then you are ready to go and set up your mail server. Okay, so let's access our Patriot PS Personal Server applications configuration application, and here is the sign-in page, so that I can go ahead and start configuring my mail server. I would log in using the PPS admin and the password that you have created in the previous configuration. So if you go to the main page here, you would see configure mail, and you click on configure mail. So now in the initial configuration, we had just configured the personal server to just send emails. So now I want to switch that configuration. I want to set it as an email server. So I'm going to select the next option here, configure personal server as an email server, and click next. And it is going to ask me what is your domain name. So I'm going to say the domain name for which I want to set the mail server is iserve4.me, and click next. And then what it will do is that it will query the MX record for that domain name. Since you have already created the MX record, it already found out that the MX record is called mx.iserve4me. Now you could have multiple MX records, but this is the one for simplicity. We're going to just use one, and then you select that and click next. So now here is asking whether your internet connection is using a dynamic IP address or your internet connection is using a static IP address. Now in our case, as a typical in most of the home connections, you would be using a dynamic IP address. So you would select this option. And here it is asking you to enter the SMTP server name for your ISP. In my case, my ISP is Time Warner, and they have an SMTP server called mail.twc.com. You can always call your ISP and ask for that information. And typically they either listen to port 25 or 587, and you can use 25. And if your ISP does require an SMTP server authentication, you would select that. But in my case, they don't, as long as they figure out that the request for sending mail is coming from their internet connection. They really don't need any authentication. So that's the only information you need. And as I said, if you're really concerned about the privacy, you could use, if you do have an internet connection with a static IP address, then you can select this option. So for now, I'm going to use this and click next. And the next thing that you would need is that the mail server uses the MySQL database for managing the mailboxes. So you should remember that in your initial configuration, you have already provided the root password for this MySQL database. You should know that. So I'm going to enter that root password that I had provided before. And then this application also requires creating a mail database, and that would also need a password. So you can use the same password or use a different password. I would recommend using a different password here. So write this down. You may need it later on if you have to do some maintenance on that database. So I'm going to enter this password here. And then this checkbox basically checks, suppose if you're configuring something went wrong, and if you're reconfiguring this mail server, then you could select this. But in our case, we had not configured this before, so there is no previous mail database exists. So you can leave this checkbox as it is. And then the next couple of things that you would need is that there is also an application called Postfix Admin. And that application is used to create additional mailboxes for your mail server. So the default login for that application is PPS admin, and it uses your domain name, which is iserve4.me. So you would need an admin password here. Now you might want to write these passwords because you would need that in future. So I'm going to enter another password here, and once you provide that password, click next. And here, this is the your mail server uses a self-signed SSL certificate to ensure that your mail is transferred securely when connecting to mail servers. So you would just and this is also used when you're trying to retrieve mail from your mail client. It uses a secure connection. Now, so when you connect from your iOS or your Microsoft Outlook client, it may give a warning. So in order to ensure that you are talking to your mail server and no other mail server, you can use these identifiers and the fingerprint that get generated, the public fingerprint, to ensure that you're connecting to your mail server. So for here, I'm going to give my name so I can easily identify that this certificate belongs to me. And then it uses the country, state, city, and you can also give an additional identifier, my personal server or something, some name that you can easily recognize. And the validity of the certificate, which is by default is 10 years. You can recreate this SSL certificate any number of time using option. You can even set it on a schedule. So if you're worried that your SSL certificate may be compromised, you can regenerate this SSL certificate any number of times. So once you provide this information, click next. And this basically shows you a summary of the information that you provided. Your mail server MX record is mxiserve4.me. Your SMTP server that you're using is mail.twc.com, and other information that you have provided with regards to your mail SSL certificate. And then all you need to do is click submit, and your Patriot PS, this may take a few minutes to configure your mail server. So once the mail server has been configured, it'll give you important information on this page that has got port information that you need to make a note. And I would just print that information on your printer so that when you are ready to configure your mail client, you have that information at hand, what port to use, whether you're using POP service to download your email, or you want to use your IMAP. So there is very useful information that is printed at the end of this successful configuration. So once the configuration is complete, you would see that your mail has been successfully configured. Okay, now you would have to scroll down and make sure you confirm this. As you will see, there is an SSL certificate fingerprint information that you can use to verify when you're connecting with your mail server. And then there are different settings. If you're using POP 3S, what is the server name that you need to use, and what is the authentication method, and what ports that you need to connect to. Okay, now these ports are the ports used by your Patriot PS Personal Server. You would have to correspondingly create an external port on your router, so whenever a request comes on that port, it gets directed to this particular port on your Patriot PS Personal Server. There is also a webmail link that you can use, just like your Gmail or Yahoo Mail that you access over the web. You don't have a mail client at hand, and if you want to directly connect to your mail server, it uses your external IP address /webmail, and using that you can log in. And when you log in, you'll have to give the default mailbox user ID. Okay, you can, and I will show you can create multiple mailboxes. The default mailbox that this configuration process create is called the PPS admin at your domain name. Okay, so once you and I would just go ahead and print this information on the printer so that you have this. Now there are different ways you can access this information, and email is also sent to you with this information. This information is also available on other from the mail menu item here. So for now, let me print this out so that I have it handy when I go ahead and configure the client, my mail client. And then once you print that, confirm this so that your Patriot PS now is configured as a mail server. So if you do go to the mail menu here, and it shows you that currently it is configured as an email server, and you can look at this information, the same information that you saw in the previous screen, indicating the details about your mail server. So this is another place where you can have important information, or the configuration information about your mail server. So here are a couple of useful URLs, the different ways you can access your webmail. You can access it from internet using an externally addressable hostname that you may have configured on your domain names at your domain name service provider, or you can use your external IP address, or you can use the home network. This concludes how to configure your Patriot PS Personal Server as a mail server. There is a follow-up video to this called Post Mail Server Configuration video that shows you how to configure your mail clients using the information that was generated on the successful mail server configuration. And also it will show you how you can access your mail using the webmail, and also how to create additional mailboxes using the postfix admin application. Thank you for listening. For additional videos and documentation, refer to our website at www.pexus.com/patriotps/media. Thank you.